how singing is good for us. Hello everybody, welcome. We are here on Signpost for Living with Dr. Kirsten Hunter, and we're joined with another doctor, which I did know that about you, but I had forgotten momentarily. Everyone, this is Melissa Forbes, Dr. Melissa Forbes. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Kirsten, and hello everyone. And yes, I'm a doctor, but a very different doctor to you.
Yeah. We can join heads on that one. And everyone, we are talking about singing, which it just makes my heart feel joyful. just the topic, really. Yeah, it really does. Where to begin? So how about we just let everyone know a little bit about you?
Sure.
So how it is that we're coming to talk about singing, which again, I just keep smiling. I say singing, I smile.
Look, it's been a long journey for me to where I am today as a singer who researches singing.
There you go.
And it really is, I guess singing is kind of the story of my life in a way. Some of my earliest memories are of my dad, I think, like holding me in church and me. I must have been like 3 or something.
Could your dad hold a tune?
Oh, yeah, and both mum and dad can hold a tune really well. And crying, I was crying, but I wasn't crying because I was upset. I was crying because I was moved by the music. I thought it was beautiful, you know.
A joyful cry.
Yeah, and another really early memory I have is I was singing a TV theme song after school one day, like when I was in primary school. And Mum was in the other room and she said, "Turn that TV off." And it was me as a kid, mimicking the TV theme.
There you go. You're obviously doing a pretty good job.
Well, these are things that I've thought about a lot later in life and thought, wow, this singing thing has really been, and music more generally, has been just a part of me just since the beginning.
Part of your core.
Yeah, and look, I think one of the things that I'm really interested in is that it's actually a part of all of us. But so many of us, through various circumstances when we're growing up, or an unkind word from a teacher or whatever, we lose that connection. And to me, that's really quite tragic, because I think that singing is a birthright for all of us.
So can I ask all the ignorant questions?
Please.
Okay. What if you can't hold a tune?
Okay. Myth busting number 1 is that almost everyone can hold a tune.
Is that true?
That is true. And actual tone deafness is extremely rare. So where you literally cannot match a basic note,
really?
That is really rare. So what we find is that a lot of people who say, "Oh, I can't sing," or, "I only sing in the shower," kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're fine with singing.
Really?
But it's very much a case of being culturally or socially conditioned into thinking that you are not able to do it.
Oh, well, I've heard so many people say, "Oh, my family don't sing." Well, I'm from a family who can't hold a tune.
Yeah.
Heard that one a lot.
Yeah. And that's really, I guess from a scientific perspective, quite uncommon.
Yeah.
It's quite uncommon
that's
for people
more of a
to be
cultural kind of
totally
concept imposed growing up, or assumptions they've had about themselves.
That's right. And we'll probably get to this later, but I've found myself working within the field of singing and health and well-being, and trying to encourage, say, older people to become involved in singing because it's just so good for them. And that can be a real barrier for people because they've grown up thinking their whole lives, "Oh, well, I can't do that. I can't join that community choir because I can't sing."
Yeah.
So it's something as a researcher that I'm quite interested in, because I don't want people to not do something because of a false, like a limiting belief that they have around.
That is fascinating.
Around singing, yeah. And I mean, when you understand the way that the singing voice functions, like I do, because I'm a singing teacher, and I've looked into voice science and the physiology of the voice. When you understand that singing is fundamentally a physical activity, it's like walking, or
We're designed to do it.
We're designed to. We've
say?
got the infrastructure to do it.
You've got the goods. You're just not using them.
It's a case of use it or lose it a lot of the time.
Wow.
You know, it's because people think they can't sing, then they don't use the musculature
Yeah.
that's required for singing.
Yeah.
So it literally loses tonus like any other muscle. And so it becomes this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, you know.
So it's kind of dormant.
Exactly.
Oh, that's just sad.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know, trying to encourage people to do any kind of exercise, really. Like, it's really uncomfortable to begin with because you don't, you know, your muscles aren't that responsive and they're not well conditioned or whatever. But singing is really the same as any other physical exercise, any other physical activity, really.
Well, you'll be very happy to know that I sing every day of my life.
Good.
I do.
Good.
I come from a background of singing mum, and my dad could hold a tune nicely. And I grew up with, I was very lazy, so I picked the instrument that was the easiest to carry, which was choir. I'm not kidding. Yeah. That was my logic. And but I love singing. I'm an alto, and I'm very, very comfortable singing. I love singing. And every night, as the family will attest, I sing to the boys every night.
Right.
Every night, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope it's beautiful. It is for me. But the amount of times that I've been to, you know, like a birthday, personally, I think Happy Birthday, that song is terrible. But anyway, and, you know, you go there and you're about to sing Happy Birthday and everyone goes silent. And there I am, you know,
belting it
out. No shame there. But, yeah, it's really interesting. And the theme is embarrassment.
Yeah, and shame.
Shame, yeah.
You know, I guess there is a real element of vulnerability with singing where, and I guess now I'm talking from the perspective of a performer because I've done a lot of performing in my life as well. You know, when you stand up and you open your mouth and you sing, you really are laying yourself bare.
It's just you, isn't it?
It's just you. You don't have a piano or a guitar or a saxophone to
You're
kind
the
of hide behind. It's you, the body that you inhabit is the instrument. And so it's very easy to kind of take people's perceptions of that as being about you as a person rather than what they're hearing, for example. It's very hard for singers to kind of dissociate like the singing and the product from the person. Yeah. And so I think, you know, getting back to like why people are reluctant to sing Happy Birthday or whatever, I get it.
It is a terrible song though, don't you agree?
Oh, it's all right.
Do you think?
It's fine. I've never really thought about it, to be honest.
I think too much.
Yeah, it's because it makes us vulnerable, you know, and particularly if we're not feeling confident about what our voice can do, we're even less likely to want to just throw ourselves into something like that.
Absolutely. And let's talk about you for a minute. So what sort of singing? I mean, you've explained it to me once. Can you explain what kind of singing you do?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as type of singing?
Oh, there's lots of different types of singing, yes.
Another ignorant question.
Definitely.
I'm going to rack them up.
And I guess I ended up singing music that I really enjoyed growing up. So when I was a teenager, I just loved R&B and soul, that type of music.
Yeah.
Didn't ever listen to jazz and kind of discovered that in my 20s. And then realised that you could kind of combine all of those things and it sounds really awesome. So I guess the stuff that I have sung as a performer has been a blend of those types of genres. Very much, embedded in improvisation and kind of responding to what the musicians give you in the moment, being able to kind of have fun with lyrics and change things around and
Just
change
sounds very jazz.
Phrasing. Yeah, so it is very jazz.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the stuff that I like to perform. And
what did you think of our little jingle? That was a bit jazz.
It was cute.
French jazz.
Very upbeat.
I thought so.
Yeah, I like it.
matches me.
No, it's really, really nice, yeah.
Every time I listen to it, I still like it.
Well, that's a good sign.
It is a very good sign, yeah.
Because you're going to hear it a lot.
I am. Yeah, every time you saw me, I'm dancing. Oh, that's fun. So, okay, so you're into that kind of improvisational? Is that right? Improv?
Yeah, improv.
I'll go
for sure.
improv.
Let's do that. Not such a tongue twister.
But you haven't always been in. You've kind of come and gone, haven't you? So you had some other professional background prior.
Yeah. So when I left school, I went to uni and I studied arts law. And I don't know. I was 17, 18. Who knows what they want to do when they're that age? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Seriously, take some time off, kids, and, figure it out. Don't throw yourselves into these things and then, wake up with a HECS bill that's like tens of thousands of dollars for something that you didn't want to do.
Yeah. But did you actually know prior to taking on law?
Yeah, I knew, but I just did it anyway.
Because law was more sensible?
More sensible, more certain, there's an obvious kind of career pathway.
Yeah. So you were the suppressed singing lawyer?
Yes, and that really came out quite strongly while I was doing law, because I ended up directing the law review and, ordering the band around for...
Was there a band in the Law Society?
Yeah, for the UQ Law Society's law review. So I did that a couple of years in a row, and... that was, of course, the highlight of the year for me, was doing that stuff. And by the end of my degree, I was really thinking, oh, what am I doing?
I think I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah, and so I foolishly said to myself, okay, I'll apply for one job, and if I get it, one job in law, that is, if I get it, it's a sign that I should just be doing law. And, of course, I got the job. And so I ended up working professionally for a few years, but didn't enjoy the work itself. Loved the people I worked with some amazing people, and eventually had a very supportive employer who said, if you want to go back and study music, we'll support you by giving you a part-time job. And so they kind of basically supported me through my transition out of law.
It's really sweet.
It is. It's amazing, actually.
We're going to hold your hand as you leave us.
Yeah, I know.
See
really
you later.
Nice. And
That's beautiful.
It was a large corporate law firm, and they have kind of, don't have the best reputation, I guess, for being, great places to work. But the firm that I worked for was very supportive, and so I kind of transitioned out of that and went back and studied music full time as a mature age student. Was just a really irritating mature age student at the front of the class, super keen the whole time through my music degree. Probably irritated all the 16, 17-year-olds around me constantly, but I was just so grateful to finally be in
You
an
wouldn't have
environment.
taken it for granted. You're like, I've worked hard to get here. I'm finally here.
Yeah.
You'd been that enthusiastic bunch at the front.
Yeah. So studied jazz at the Queensland Conservatorium, jazz voice.
There you go. And so was your view at that point to study with the purpose of performance?
Yeah, it really was. It was to become as good a musician as I could be. Like, I was just really interested in the craft.
So what instruments do you play?
I sing, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think of that as, a musical instrument.
Absolutely.
And I play the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be very complimentary.
Yeah.
You can probably just pick up an instrument, can't you, and probably make sense of it.
I did pick up the guitar for a few years and made sense of some chords pretty easily. Yeah.
Do you know I cycled through 11 instruments through my school years?
Wow, that is impressive.
Well, it was very low commitment.
Yeah.
Basically, I'd rock up and go, hey, what's this? And I'd pick it up and I'd have a go for a while and I'd go, yeah, what's this? And, I got stuck with the euphonium for a while only because there was no one else and I couldn't get away from it. But,
wow.
I just liked to dabble and play and ended up with good old choir, which I really enjoyed. And then my choir won the best in Queensland, the best in the state.
Okay.
Did all right.
Wow.
Did a performance at QPAC.
Nice.
Queensland Performing Arts, yeah. And enjoyed it. Had fun. Had fun. And if something's fun, I'm in.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of kids who try various instruments through their kind of primary and high school years, they get funneled into that, do an exam kind of pathway where they're kind of taking it semi-seriously and working towards passing these exams. And so many people drop out because it kind of kills the joy,
Very assessment-based.
Very much outcomes-based rather than what you're talking about was just enjoying the activity for the sake of it, you know. But that's a whole other conversation.
It is. And I understand some personalities really enjoy having those tasks to work towards, and it gives them a great sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, and look, there's nothing wrong with exams per se, but when they become an end in themselves rather than just something that you do passing through your development, do you know what I mean? I think they become a bit of an issue. So
wouldn't work for my personality. I'm quite encourageable.
No, but it's the most common way for children and teenagers to kind of engage with, say, instrumental music.
Sure.
And it can also be a little bit lonely, I think, and not as collaborative as, say, some other popular musics are.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I guess I've really been drawn more towards, well, definitely popular music, and the chance to, you know, get together and have fun with other people. And again, I'm not saying that like classical musicians don't do that. Of course they do. But it's just never really attracted me, like that type of music.
And by the way, everybody, as I was saying before we got on, I jumped on Spotify and had a look at you. Everyone jump on Melissa Forbes on Spotify and you can listen to you jazzing it out.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So tell me, let's get back into the singing. Where do you want to go? I've got so many questions, but do you have a direction you want to start with?
Well, I guess we could talk about how I came to be researching singing probably about 4 years ago now, and what I've kind of discovered along the way since then. That might be a way to...
So I think another ignorant question would be, how do you research singing? What is... I mean, I don't mean... I'm not minimising this.
Yeah.
There's just the genuine question of what is there to research about singing? It sounds bad, but do you get my point?
I do, and I do understand that the whole research thing can be a bit kind of obscure for people. So
I think it's great.
Research involves trying to find out things that people haven't really found out before. You know, it's like a treasure hunt, really. And amazingly, singing is really ripe for research. So there's a lot of research about how to teach people how to sing. Right? There's a lot of kind of pedagogical research.
What does pedagogical mean for?
How to teach people.
There you go.
How to sing.
Yeah.
A lot, and in the last few decades, there's been like this explosion of scientific research about how the voice actually works.
So we're talking anatomical?
And acoustics, and, you know, putting electrodes on the larynx and measuring, you know, airflow and all sorts of kind of really highly scientific things.
Yeah.
But the type of research that I'm interested in is about our experience.
Beautiful.
What is it like to sing?
How singing is good for us.
Yes. Yeah. And how we can use it to make ourselves feel good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's very much from that experiential perspective. And just on that, I was listening to an interview with a woman called Priya Parker, who's an American author. She's written a book called The Art of Gathering, and she was talking about singing together.
Yeah.
And she noted that probably, I mean, she didn't give a time frame, but I would say probably in the last, say, I don't know, 50 to 100 years, singing has become highly performative rather than experiential. So it's something that we sit and we consume, you know, like we watch The Voice or we go to a concert and we watch someone perform singing.
And it's appraising people and how good they are.
Exactly. Whereas once upon a time, we were all standing around the pianola at home just singing for our own enjoyment, right?
Yeah, getting into it.
Yeah, and so I think what we're seeing is actually a real return to the experience of singing rather than it just exclusively being this domain for people who are really good at it and get to perform it.
Are we wanting, we are wanting for there to be a return. Is there a return?
Yeah, I think there is. I think particularly in terms of group singing, stuff like pub choir.
Yes.
I don't know if you know about pub choir.
I have, but let's...
But it was started by Astrid Jorgensen, who went to the Con. She's a graduate of the Con as well, Queensland Conservatorium. And she started running these kind of gigs where she would teach the crowd to sing in harmony. And it's just kind of become bigger than Ben-Hur, really. To me, that indicates that people are hungry for that type of experience.
Yeah.
Of course, COVID's kind of put a bit of a dampener on the in-person experience that pub choir has offered people, but she's very savvy and she transitioned it to couch choir.
There you go.
And so, people video themselves singing and then they edit it all together or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just one of many examples that I'm seeing kind of emerge in the last few years, which to me is indicating that there's kind of a move to reclaim singing for ourselves, which I think is really exciting.
There's a lot of community choirs as well, of course.
Heaps of community choirs.
I mean, we live in southeast Queensland, Australia, and in our little pocket of the world, there's quite a few community choirs, and it's a real community experience of everyone coming together and having that shared experience of creating music.
Yep.
But it's that sharing of music.
Yeah, there's something very special about being in a group with other people and all striving towards creating a single sound. Even if you're all singing the same part or if you're singing in harmony, the effect on the singer seems to be the same, and that is that you get this kind of boost of feel-good hormones like oxytocin. I always go to say Oxycontin, but that's the wrong one.
I hope not.
Oxytocin, which is, the bonding hormone, and serotonin and dopamine.
And just to break it down, everyone, oxytocin is the hormone that is released when we hug, when we have eye contact, when we share a meal together, when we have intimacy, and when we have sex. It's a very, very primal connecting hormone, isn't it? Neurochemical. Yeah. So to sing and to receive that and to give that,
Yeah, and so, a great way to kind of instantly get a group of people to bond is to get them to sing a song together. And I spent some time in Denmark as a exchange student when I was a teenager, and they have such an amazing singing culture there where in schools there's hundreds of kind of songs that are written in Danish that the people sing. And they've got songs for all different types of occasions. They sing it in the morning. They'll sing it for...
is this like a school assembly? What is this?
We'll sing it in class or, for any kind of special occasion. We tend to sing Happy Birthday and maybe like Auld Lang Syne. That's about it.
Yeah.
Where they have this whole tradition of these songs. There's a tradition of morning song, for example. So I went to a conference there 2 years ago in Copenhagen, and the organisers got everybody to come to morning song in the mornings. And that was just so nice at a conference to be able to sing. It was actually with a bunch of amazing singing teachers, so it sounded pretty good. But at a kind of academic conference, to have singing at it.
There you go.
And so it's this kind of ad singing, and everybody's getting along really well.
I think you'll resonate this, and I'm really glad that John's in the room. Last weekend we were at a pub at Caloundra at the coast, and a lady was performing, and her last song that she sung at this pub where everyone was very friendly was Waltzing Matilda. And the impact when you have Waltzing Matilda happening with a group of people, particularly with a wine in hand. Yeah, so we had a great sing-along. And it's that song that I think in Australia everyone loves to sing.
Oh, I don't know. I think Daryl Braithwaite's The Horses is number one.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that.
And I know that
deeply offends.
It tends to divide the nation. But
no, it doesn't divide. You're just wrong.
No, I'm in the pro camp. Sorry.
Are you really?
This is an awesome song.
Oh, I can't do
That's
it.
the way it's gonna be, little darling.
No, don't do that. Seriously, no. I think Waltzing Matilda is a song that people think they want it to be the anthem. Don't you think?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, maybe if you were drinking wine with me that night,
I would think the same.
But it's gorgeous, isn't it? When you've got a group of people together.
Yeah.
Nice singing, by the way. And everyone kind of comes together. It's so connecting. The hearts come together.
Yeah, and look, I guess my point is that is entirely possible without the alcohol too.
Yeah, of course.
And there's research to show that people have people have gone in and taken oxytocin levels before and after group singing and all that kind of stuff. So it's a physiological response where you really feel like you've had a kind of bonding experience with the people you're singing with.
Absolutely. And there's two other areas from a psych perspective, and we've talked about it, so I know you're all over this. I mean, I think you're going to jump in. It's going to be great. Is that when people are stressed, they're in their sympathetic nervous system, yes? Mm-hmm. So they're in the nervous system where they're in threat response. And so when they sing, they exhale beautifully. And when you have a beautiful state of meditation or really good breathing, it's all about exhaling, releasing, exhaling. So when you sing, you are breathing out, which is the same with whistling and humming. And so that can help people to release the stress neurochemicals and to take them over to the parasympathetic nervous system, the calming nervous system where we want to live, where we live in the state of serotonin and then melatonin. And so when you're singing, you're exhaling and you're literally physically chilling your body out.
Yep.
And it's so beautiful. So when people sing, they really can release and they can calm down and you know, people can feel a euphoric sense, and that's on their own.
Yeah.
Obviously with other people there's also, you know, the bonding happening as well. So that's a huge benefit of singing. And I often have clients come in and I say, do you sing? And they go, yes. And some of them say, not very well. I'm like, I'm not interested. And
doesn't matter.
Now I'm going to say, well, is that true? No, it's not. I'll send them to you. But yeah, and I get them to sing, and you know, there you go. They come down from their anxious stress state.
I find it interesting that people don't really think of singing as what I refer to it as a personal well-being tool. You know, because we have, like you said, about being lazy and picking the choir option. We have the voice with us at all times.
Oh, it's so handy.
It's here.
Yeah.
It goes with you everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And to kind of understand that you've got that at your disposal at any time, I think that message could be more widely understood.
Absolutely. And you know, do you get my tummy then? And coming back to the alcohol point before, I completely agree, you don't need alcohol to sing. But isn't it interesting that what often gets people to sing is alcohol? Have you noticed that? So their inhibitions go down, they're not being self-conscious anymore, and they just get in and have a good old sing. And that tells me they want to.
Most of the time they sound okay.
Everyone else is inebriated. So but that tells me that they actually want to, but they're feeling self-conscious, and the alcohol has just been a bit of a social lubricant to have a good old sing. And you don't need alcohol, you're absolutely right.
And I think that's why pub choir has just been it's just untapped this, you know, huge well of desire in people to experience
particularly
that.
When singing Waltzing Matilda.
Yeah, okay. All right. You win.
I will stop. But the other area that I kind of see in the psych world, and we have talked about this, is state of flow. Yeah. So everyone's state of flow is the optimal human condition, where basically you find something where you just dive in and you're just consumed with passion and enjoyment and meaning, and you're doing something that challenges you a bit so it's not boring, but it's not too challenging so it's not too stressful. And so you just get into this lovely little funnel and you dive in. And if you get into a state where you're really enjoying singing for whatever reason, you can well and truly get into a state of flow. And we know we're in a state of flow when time disappears. And even though afterwards we'll describe that it was a really elated, beautiful emotion, it's actually without emotion while we're in it.
That's exactly right.
So quite ironic. And so, you know, singing for me, when I sing, I'm absolutely in a state of flow, and my kid's often asleep and I'm still singing.
Yeah.
He's happy, I'm happy, we're good to go.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people probably experience that in the shower. You know, like at the moment I'm not doing any performing or anything like that, but whenever I have a shower, I start to make up little melodies and things, and then I think, oh, hang on, what am I doing? I need to get on with it. You know, like I lose track of time.
Do you?
Yeah. So, you know, that can occur anywhere, really.
I don't know what I've been doing with my time. I don't sing in the shower.
Oh.
I sing a lot of the time, but not in the shower. Interesting, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Nice. And you create.
Yeah, I find that when I am kind of actually singing these days, I'm just making things up rather than singing I don't know why. It's just...
Because you can and you're very talented?
Well, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I've just... I've been listening to lots of jazz over the last, number of years and playing more piano and trying to improvise on the piano, and I think some of that stuff is just translating into what I'm singing. So, yeah.
That is lots of fun. So you've done some work with State of Flow?
Yeah, on jazz singers actually. So
tell me about that.
I interviewed some really top-notch jazz singers. And so for people who aren't familiar with jazz singing...
You're going to name drop?
I can't name drop because I wasn't allowed to name the singers that I studied.
Really?
No, because I didn't get ethical clearance for that. But I should have. Gosh. Yeah, I really should have. But, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Louis Armstrong, they're kind of your classic jazz singers. And the singers that I interviewed all improvise during performance. So that means that they'll go into this extended phase in a song where they're just making stuff up. So they're not singing the lyrics anymore.
Yeah, they're creating.
They're creating. So it's like, like the saxophone, when the saxophone takes a solo or the guitar might take a solo, these singers will do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So they'll improvise melodies and rhythms and syllables. So some people might be familiar with the term scat singing. Yep. That's kind of an old-fashioned term for it, but I like to use vocal improvisation. And so what I found was that these singers are entering a state of flow when they're doing that. All of the things that...
trance-like state, isn't it?
Yeah, all of the things that you said, Kirsten, about what constitutes flow. They're losing track of time. They're really focused in their concentration. Yep. Their skills are just matched to the kind of musical challenges that are being thrown at them by the other musicians. They're just right on the edge of what they can do. Mm-hmm. That was the first study to actually look at jazz singing and the experience of it. So a lot of research on jazz has been about instrumentalists, and I just think that...
You're giving a voice to the voice?
Well, that's funny because that's what the title of the article
You're kidding me. No, you're kidding me. Oh, we are in sync.
Giving voice to jazz singers' experiences of flow and improvisation. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that is great. And so what have you, come upon, read, know of with regard to the benefits of singing broadly?
Well, I think a lot of the research literature focuses on group singing, and what we know from group singing is that, like I mentioned before, we have this kind of hormonal feel-good response. People will generally just report feeling a very strong sense of camaraderie with the people that they've sung with. The thing that I notice when I'm kind of reading the literature or interviewing people, the most common word is joy.
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 Joy. We should change the title, The Joy of Singing.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
That's, to me, if it was to be brought down to one word, it would be that.
It's a very powerful word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a word that it's an emotion that we don't get enough of, I think.
Yeah, you're off to, choir practice. What are you up to, love? I'm off to have joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
And last year I did a project where I interviewed a whole bunch of people who facilitate singing groups from across the country. Mm-hmm. So these are the community musicians who work with these groups and lead them.
Yep.
And again, the number one thing that they all mentioned was just the joy that it gives them to be able to do that type of work. And so we looked at their work experiences through the lens of positive psychology.
Yes.
And the Perma model for wellbeing. So Perma stands for positive emotions, engagement or flow, relationships, meaning and accomplishment. And all of those things constitute a sense of wellbeing.
And my darling, this is why you're here. You're into the psychology of singing and I love it.
And our facilitators of these singing groups experienced all of those things in their work.
Yeah.
And so we kind of were able to say that it's meaningful work for these people.
Isn't it just so crazy that we're capable of singing, it brings us joy, and yet there's a huge portion of the population that says, I don't do it.
Yeah.
That's just sad.
It is.
I wonder what proportion of the population think they can't sing and they actually can. Oh, there's research.
Yeah. I think it's probably, I'm not going to put a number on it, but it's pretty common, you know. And isn't that a tragedy that people are kind of blocking themselves from this experience?
I would guess at about 40% of the population thinks they can't sing.
Yeah. And it's because now we've got such warped ideas about what singing is. So this is another one of my kind of hobby horses, Kirsten.
Yeah.
Shows like The Voice, for example, have not done singing any favours.
I don't watch TV.
So,
but obviously it's people getting up and singing.
It's a singing competition.
Yeah.
Where people get up and they do the most kind of extreme form of singing. Like it's kind of
it's performance,
freak show kind of stuff. You know,
okay. Yeah.
Like most people aren't going to be able to do that. I mean, I can't do it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So it's the extreme end of the spectrum.
At the absolute limit of what the human voice can do.
Yeah.
And so people think, oh, okay, that's what singing is. I don't do that.
I love when I might be in a theatre or something and Danny Boy comes on and everyone sings.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or anything from Sound of Music, you know.
You know what? We were at some musical, I know what it was, and our boys, the big boys, they had never heard of the Sound of Music. I know. What have I been doing? I need to educate them.
There's a gap that needs to be filled.
Basic education. Oh, that's so good. So if people are listening to this and they are thinking, okay, I grew up in a family that don't sing, I don't sing, but you're telling me I probably can. What to do? How can they open the floodgates? How can they get started with tapping into this just very natural, primal, reaching for joy?
Well, first thing I'd do is put on a song that you really love.
Yep.
When you're having a shower.
Not Daryl.
Okay, not Daryl Braithwaite.
I'm being mean.
So put on a song that you really, really love while you're having a shower and just quietly sing along to it. You know, just kind of ease yourself into it. I think having music that you love is a really key entry point for people.
Yep.
And just try to do it like, you know, all of the things that are good for us, like exercise and meditation and all that kind of stuff. Try to do a little bit every day, like 2 minutes.
just nice, gentle.
Just 1 3-minute song in the shower and just sing along to that. I think people, if you're committed to doing that every time you had a shower, I think people would actually notice a difference.
I can actually hold a tune here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what my voice can do.
They're exercising their voice at the same time, you know, and with that will come increased confidence, with, you know, increased kind of strength and flexibility and all that in the voice. So that would be my tip. Or, you know, if you're doing something around the house that's a bit of a mundane task, you know, just hum along to something or hum to yourself or sing quietly to yourself. And just see what it feels like.
It's fascinating from an anthropological perspective, hey? You know, if we look back at our ancestors, the cave world, etc., moving forward, they would have been singing.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure.
And all these, I mean, I don't know, but all these different cultures and all the different, you know, they'd be telling stories through song.
Yeah.
There would just be this incredible theme throughout history of singing, and that would be very tribal.
Yes.
And everyone coming together and having that shared experience.
Yeah.
So maybe we just need to get back to our tribal roots and just make it part of our natural, normal, everyday world and a way of bonding and connecting and feeling part of it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's just so many ways in which group singing in particular can help with...
Let's talk about that group that you do.
Yeah. So...
Sorry, I just cut you off. I got too excited.
No, that's all right. So what I said before about, you know, singing... I guess having a bit of a renaissance is partly because in the field of health and well-being, and particularly with group singing for health and wellbeing, there's been a huge explosion of research and activity over the last 20 years.
Yep.
Demonstrating, some pretty solid evidence now that getting together and singing with people is actually good for your health and it's good for your wellbeing.
Yep.
And so I've been involved for the last 4.5 years with a group that started here in Toowoomba for people with Parkinson's,
which is
and
Southeast
their carers.
Queensland.
Sorry,
everyone. All good.
Missed that.
That's all good.
And the group started at the request of people, local members of the community who had heard about the research around singing and wanted a group to start here.
Yeah.
And so we started that group out at the university, out at the local university where I work. And so the group's been going ever since, and they did have a bit of a break in 2020 because of the lockdown, but they've been meeting regularly ever since. And
so who's in the group?
It's people with Parkinson's disease.
There you go.
And people who care for people with Parkinson's disease.
So it's people with Parkinson's and carers.
That's right.
Together.
And anyone else who wants to come along and lend a healthy voice is welcome too. So we have a few people who are there just to kind of help out and volunteer.
Wow.
And so for the first, up until this year, we've had an amazing facilitator who was a graduate of our university music program lead the group, and she's had to leave for other opportunities, and so I've actually taken over doing some of that facilitation this year for the first time. So up until now I've been involved from a research perspective and kind of just from a support perspective for the group, but now I'm actually standing in front of the group and getting to feel what that feels like to kind of work with these people. And it's a real privilege. It's been a privilege to be involved from the start, getting to know them, getting to understand Parkinson's and, the impact that it has on people's lives. But to be able to stand in front of the group and to lead them through song is just a really special thing for me.
Wow.
And
have I ever told you my father had Parkinson's?
No.
Yeah,
no.
He had Parkinson's, and then he developed dementia, and he passed away when I was 30.
Right.
But he was a singer.
Yeah.
He would have loved that.
Yeah. It's just, when you think about people who can't sing, well, people with Parkinson's suffer really quite severe vocal, loss of vocal function over time.
Yes.
But they're there every week and they're singing their hearts out.
And what do they find that they can, with Parkinson's, as you would know, it's very much a communication between their brain and their body. And if they can trick their brain, they can use their body.
Yeah.
My father used to walk along and he'd get stuck, and if he'd just put a rope in front of him, he could then suddenly walk over the rope and keep walking.
And
so lots of tricking himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Similar with dancing as well. Dance for Parkinson's is also running in our town. And that's a similar kind of tricking the body into improving the movement.
So are you finding when people are singing, they're able to access a capacity that they can't in speaking?
Look, as a researcher, I'm loath to say yes to that because I haven't really researched that.
In your observations?
From my observation, there have been people in the group who have barely been able to speak, but who've been able to sing.
This is what we're talking about.
There's been a couple of people like that.
Yeah. And everyone's unique. Everyone's individual with their response.
Yeah. So getting back to the idea of singing as physical exercise, there has been a randomized control trial on group singing for Parkinson's disease that was conducted down in Melbourne.
Right.
And they found that it does improve vocal loudness in people for Parkinson's.
Yeah.
If they follow, particular protocols or whatever. So, there are those literal health benefits of improving vocal function and vocal loudness, which in turn improves vocal quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And communication is just the capacity to connect and to
that's right.
function. So, so important.
Yeah, and so there has been research involving our group and a whole range of other groups internationally, which showed that people with Parkinson's feel less stigma about the disease being involved in these types of groups, which is really important for people with Parkinson's because it is a very stigmatising illness.
Very isolating.
Very socially isolating.
Yeah.
So there's just a whole range of benefits really from this type of activity. and it's cheap to deliver. Yeah. It's enjoyable to deliver.
Yeah.
You know, of course it can't replace other therapies, but it's a great complement to a range of those other more traditional therapies.
Yeah.
And so in places like the UK, they've got social prescription, for example, where activities like that would actually be prescribed by a GP.
There you go.
Yeah.
Isn't
and
that so great?
We really need to move towards a model like that, where kind of community interventions like ours are recognised as having value for the traditional medical community.
That is inspiring. That's lovely. I love that idea. You know, if it works, let's really prioritise it.
Yeah.
Let's jump away from the medical model when there's other complementary
Exactly.
approaches that are going to improve quality of life.
Yep.
There you go. Oh, that's great. Well, I love the idea of you getting out there and bringing on the feel good with that group. That's awesome. Really, really special.
Yeah. So I just want to give a shout out to the group because they are very special to me, and they've been, an amazing group of people to get to know. But they're called Parkinson's.
Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And this is at the University of Southern Queensland.
It is. But it has been held there for the last number of years, and now it's actually being held in town at a place called Demolo House. Just switched venues just for a variety of kind of practical reasons.
Yeah.
But always keen to welcome new members.
Parkinson's.
So if there's anyone out there who's keen, jump onto the Parkinson's Queensland website and you'll find your way to us.
That is so great.
Yeah.
That is so great. And anyone out there listening as well who wants to go and create one of these groups in their community,
Yes.
that's an incredibly inspired idea as well.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, on that positive note, I think we should. Thank you. I have really enjoyed this, and I'm going to leave with the word joy. Don't you
Sums
think?
it up beautifully.
It does. It does. Everyone, this is Dr. Melissa Forbes. Thank you so much for coming. I have to do my spiel now, don't I?
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it, everyone. And yes, and we're going to keep talking because that's what I tend to do. We get offline and keep talking. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that, sweetie. Okay, everybody, if you want to find me, the website is KirstenHunterAuthor.com. My Facebook page, Kirsten Hunter Author, and Instagram handle, Kirsten Hunter Author. I'm on Twitter at Kirsten Hunter AU, and YouTube channel, Psych in Your Car. And here we are on our podcast with Signpost for Living with Dr. Kirsten Hunter. Melissa, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Thank you, darling. See ya.
Bye.